It's so nice to see you all here tonight. We're all here for a reading by Jeannine Gailey, Mercedes Lawry, Larry Laurence, Vincent Rendoni, Judith Skillman, and Carolyne Wright. And I want to welcome you to the Jack Straw Cultural Center. My name is Kathleen Flenniken, and this is the first of our series of Jack Straw alumni poetry readings. I'm going to begin with a land acknowledgement. Today we meet on the lands of the Duwamish, Suquamish, and Muckleshoot nations and other Coast Salish people, past and present. The staff, board, and artists of Jack Straw Cultural Center acknowledge that we are living, creating, working, and playing on the traditional land of the first people of Seattle and the Salish Sea, and we honor them and the land itself with deep gratitude. I want to say thank you to our engineers tonight, Steve DeTore and Aaron Shellman, also to Jack Straw and their cultural center, especially Joan Rabinowitz and Levi Fuller. None of this would be possible without them, as all of you here know. Our event is being simulcast tonight on Facebook and recorded for later. I also want to thank our funders, Seattle Office of Arts and Culture, For Culture, Washington State Arts Commission, National Endowment for the Arts, Arts Fund, Lester and Phyllis Epstein Foundation, Rainier Institute and Foundation, and individual contributors. Before we get started on our reading, I just want to highlight that May is Jack Straw Writers Month at Jack Straw, and we will be featuring the New Year's group, which includes our this year's curator, Nisi Shaw, who's a multiple award-winning author, co-author, and editor of more than a dozen books of speculative fiction and related nonfiction, including the standard text on diverse representation, Writing the Other, A Practical Approach. And the first of the May readings will be next Friday, May 3rd, and includes Josh Griffin, Elise Hauser, Allison Massenkay, and McKenna Prinsing. That's Friday, May 3rd at 7 p.m., and which will be followed by readings on May 10th and May 17th. So I hope you will consider coming for the current batch of Jack Straw writers. I'm so pleased to be hosting this reading tonight. It started with a conversation first with Joan. I was sitting with her in a waiting room somewhere, and I was talking about how I was looking for something to do and maybe a reading series, and she encouraged me. One of the things that I was thinking about is how poets thrive on readings. We don't have book tours, really. We don't have very many opportunities to share our work. It's really all about the poetry reading. And with the pandemic, that just kind of disappeared for so many of us, most of us, I would say. So I'm trying to do my part, Jack Straw's trying to do our part to kind of bring that back. And I thought, what better way than bringing back the alumni of the Jack Straw Writers Program and the amazing number of new books that they have produced, which is just evidence of what a strong program the Jack Straw Writing Program is. And I sent out a sort of exploratory email to the Jack Straw writers from years past, and I heard back from we ended up with a series of 6 readings and 37 readers, okay? And in order to be a reader, you have to have a fairly recent book. So everyone here has a new book, and I hope you will consider purchasing a book. We have a table out there. Talk to the writers. Become familiar with their work, and I hope you will come to all of our readings. The next one we have for the alumni series is, we have 2 in June, we have one in August, we have one in October, one in November. So I hope you'll keep an eye out for the other readings and come. All right. Our first reader tonight is Jeannine Gailey. She was a member of the 2013 class of writers. Jeannine Gailey is a poet with MS who serves as Poet Laureate of Redmond, Washington. She's the author of 6 books of poetry, including Field Guide to the End of the World, winner of the Moon City Press Book Prize and the SFPA's Elgin Award, and her latest, Flare Corona from Boa Editions. Her work appeared in journals like the American Poetry Review, JAMA, Plowshares, and Poetry. I hope you will help me welcome Jeannine Hall Gailey.
Thank you guys for being here. And I'm going to hand my cane away because I can just lean on this if I need to. Can you hear me back there? Great. Thank you so much for being here tonight. It really means a lot to see a lot of old friends in the audience, and so I really hope you enjoy this reading. So this book was written, Flare Corona, between the last solar eclipse and this one. And what happened was I was diagnosed with terminal liver cancer and told I had 6 months to live. And then they told me, well, it's pretty slow growing, so maybe you're not going to die of it. But it turns out you have MS. So that was a fun year. Oh, and Trump. But that, I try to forget about that part anyway. So this is the collection I wrote out of all that. The first poem is called Calamity. Your family is coming over for Thanksgiving. Even worse, it's snowing. Headless robots are playing soccer with your soul. UFOs have been sighted overhead. A meteor is definitely heading straight for you. It might miss, but then again. Tonight, a city is being decimated by Godzilla, or was it a bunch of genetically engineered dinosaurs? Either way, I hope you're lizard friendly. Tonight, you have to give a speech, and that girl who hated you in 3rd grade will be in the audience. What have I ever done to deserve this? The prophet asks, tearing his robes in the desert, and God responds, how long you got? A plague of egrets, of egress. A black hole has just opened up, and it is already swallowing someone else's sun. Did you see the team play last night? A travesty. Someone is always preaching about doomsday. Who are you wearing? Because tonight, your life will be required of you. Grab a bag, a sword, a water bottle. Go out swinging. The next poem, I just have to say that I grew up in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which is where they did a lot of experiments and built one of the bombs that was dropped during World War II. My father worked at the Oak Ridge National Labs. Irradiate. As a child, I was radiant. The land grew irradiated corn and roses, tomatoes large and abundant, swallows and catfish carrying the isotopes into the water and woods. The sun rose each day, while the shadows of trees concealed government laboratories where my father worked. I grew up listening to the tap-click of the Geiger counter. I grew up listening to clicks on the phone line. I was still innocent, irradiated, to blast with radiation, to sterilize, food, medical equipment, a person. I was waiting for a message from the sky. I knew what it meant to illuminate the fall of light in a painting or through an old window, of the face of someone you loved, to bring the full beauty of something to the surface. I was irradiated by the gentle glow of the computer screen, by the microwave, by the sun growing brighter each spring, dimmer each fall. I meant I was full of radiation. I meant I was full of light. I meant I could give birth to nothing but light. So this next one, some of these poems are funnier than others. Anyway, my life is an accident. My life is an accident of DNA and radiation, a million missed chances for death to sweep me off my feet. Too many of this, not enough of that, a witch's spell for trouble, red-haired and scarlet-fevered, born with wings and a tail, an immune system weak as a kitten, a knack for being in the wrong weeds at the wrong time. Fascinated with systems, folders, and fossils, tracking down each dinosaur and later delivery systems for rare antivirals, government research into nuclear facilities, conspiracy theories about aliens and solar flares. I was never meant, not planned, not absorbed into the mainstream, never meant to survive this long, according to charts and scans. She's a miracle, they say. She's a mutant. She's a baby born of a bad seed. Modern living makes a body bitter. Our blood and flesh filled with hormone disruptors, flame retardants, and false positives. But I'm a haymaker, a harbinger, a fateful warning of things to come. Let's see. I'm going to knock down everything while I'm sitting here. So right there. One of the things MS takes away from you is your sense of balance. That is a sad fact. All right. This next one I wrote on San Juan Island, which is full of foxes. And we got stuck there when the ferry workers stopped working because they wouldn't get the vaccine. So we were stuck there for 10 days. It was lovely. In a plague year, I found foxes. In a plague year, I found foxes all around, on islands, red fur, gray, dusky black, shades of autumn leaves, eyes amber and unafraid, standing in grasses waiting for us. I found the fox inside me, curling up in twigs and fur, my sharpened teeth and hunger. I burrowed in to protect us from the plague, but there was nowhere to run. Like flames in the forest, it was all around, lives going up in smoke. I never left the forest. I trusted only familiar paths, familiar smells, dirt, trees, beetles, berries that stained our mouths. I drew poems in the dust. I grew a tail. I left fox fur wherever I went. I don't know how I will come back, or if I will. Our burrow now littered with bones and mushrooms, a home for the spirits of the dead. I could never outrun death. It is coming for us both. Enjoy the colors of this winter sunset, the bare branches, the visits of other foxes, their cries in the night, the softness around us, the tenderness of endings. Sorry, I'm having trouble with my pages tonight. In the second year of the plague, I plant a fig tree. Because I want to know what it's like to be new again, Eden with green figs and honey. It will be just you and me and maybe a snake for company. Already the roses are growing a thorn hedge around us. Listen to me. Sing a new song. Burn rosemary and rose petals. We'll become a city on the hill. We've paved the way with things that were lost. Cake flour, lipstick, a discarded pile of masks, smiling up at us like ghosts. We've dreamed of this day. We didn't remember how much it cost us. We've already forgotten how it was before the plague. Nightclubs, sharing an appetizer with a friend, casual hugs, even accidentally brushing a stranger's hand. So we'll be born again, love, standing under this tree, new and shiny as apples, free to make a new world, free of memory, ignorant of God or virus, demon or machine, empty of knowledge, ready to start over, ready to start with a plate of green figs, under the juice of the ripening moon, ready to grow roots into the earth. So, all right, 2 more poems and we've done. All right, if I can get the right page. All right. When I thought I was dying. When I thought I was dying, it was easy to love things. Birds, the flutter of branches, my husband who always has to be right. I thought, I will lose all of this. I hugged my cats more. I watched less television, except for comedies, which drug me to sleep at night. Stupid 1950s sci-fi films especially. Maybe I loved them too. I loved poetry and wrote almost every day, thinking I do not have time to write. The lights would flicker and threaten outages. How like our bodies these power lines are, reliable until they are not, eaten by rats or rammed by cars at random. You see how I thought everything was profound, my Netflix recommendations, passing a woman on the street and smiling at each other. I ate a lot more pancakes, something I hadn't done since childhood. I thought, maybe there will be a miracle. Maybe I will have more time. A temporary grant of extension. I will still do taxes and fill out forms at the doctor's office. I will still have time to be mad at traffic. I will stop petting random dogs. I will have time to stop noticing when the hummingbird or stellar jay pauses to look in my eyes, that moment before. That's the thing about having time. You miss so much. So here's the last poem. Wish you were here, postcard from a pandemic. We talked yesterday about how it might be the last time we ever saw each other. What did we say then? How I said I wasn't scared, but I was. It's different here on this side of the water. More deaths. The statistics seem louder. I hope you are trying to garden. I sent you a letter and some Tylenol. You still have my sweater and my circular saw. The last time we ate dinner together, we should have set up some kind of prayer. We should have said goodbye. Here is a picture of you from 12th grade. I'll remember you when all else has perished. I'll remember you when humanity has been erased from the earth. We have become fairy tales, like dragons, faintly remembered. You will be flying and carrying a sword. I'll be wearing a red cloak, surrounded by fire. Thank you.
What a great way to start things off. Thank you so much, Jeannine. Our next reader is Mercedes Lawry, who is an alum of the year 2001. Mercedes Lawry's most recent book is Vestiges from Kelsey Books. She's published 3 chapbooks and poems in journals such as Nimrod and Alaska Quarterly Review. Her book, Small Measures, is forthcoming from ELJ Editions in 2024. She's also published short fiction and stories and poems for children. Please welcome Mercedes Lawry.
I don't have a thematic thing in this book, so I'll just plunge right in. Lighting out from the failed homestead. He started down the wagon road. The early dew was still excitable, a stir in the air borrowed from dawn. He passed a foul sink of rainwater at the bottom of the hill and fields where ravens pestered sky. He'd left his brothers in the graves, the empty house and stubborn echoes, adrift in the world now, untethered. He knew to say little and show gratitude. This was a new country with old secrets. If there was luck beyond the ridge, so be it. He might be dead in a week or so. He might be whistling and welcoming stars in a fat river that revealed plenty of stones so the crossing would be easy, and he could sip the cold water and let it run over his face and feel the worth of moving on. I meet a man. He came from a place he called an estuary town. He had a fine voice. It was the first thing I noticed. He asked me questions about myself, thoughtful. I began to tell him things, and soon it was as if I had given myself to him without touching. He caused me to laugh. He allowed for that space. I was unsettled at this time. I could have gone or stayed. It mattered little. I had no reasons in my pockets or in my heart. I could not dissemble. He appeared to be free of such tussles. I asked him about his town. Was it a place to return to? Might I be happy there? He couldn't say, of course. He couldn't say. We'd only met, and here I was, probing for rescue. I could travel there to the estuary town and see for myself. He'd draw me a map. He'd point out a few sights. I might go, I told him, and I might not. I said this as if I was a devil-may-care girl. You must put it into words. Blah, 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 said the dog. The crow was not happy about it. The cat napped. The raccoon longed for a cigarette. The duck refused to acknowledge anyone. The chicken would not shut up. Blah, 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 the dog repeated. Thus the weeks rolled on without refreshment. On certain days the wind was fierce, creating a heightened nervousness. For some this was a welcome change. It was only when the dog failed to speak that the rest became concerned about syllables, articulation, diction, proper nouns, and the loss of control resulting from the babble. Finally, another stepped forward and said, blah, 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 with almost the same gusto, though he wore a mask and could not be identified. The sense of relief was palpable, and life went on, fervent and ironic. As night falls to morning, an interior monologue. I was told the bail bondsman was not coming back. A blue slice of midnight sat on my plate uneaten. The little ones were quiet now. I tore up the family history in as many small pieces as I could before my fingers gave up. The reckless twin shows an affinity for music. I can hope, loving the piano as I do. The doors are locked, front and back, and there is no wind to rattle the shutters. This is my best thinking time. I assess my situation, which continues in some ways the same, lonely as that may be. But winter is next, and I just don't know how much teeth chattering I can take. We need another quilt. He told me himself at the moment of departure. Others had told me earlier. Warnings, they called it, as if I was stupid. When I am stupid, it's because I choose to be. I think I'll make a pie under the stars. What a pretty thing. A pie filled with the breath of babies, and whatever I can conjure. What a fine idea. I set to it. In concert with yearning, the Jacques Prévert poster skims above the mantel, flanked by my altar to the dead. Bears and frogs, ashes and candles, the Balinese puppet. Dust is thick, but somehow holy, if it's not just my laziness, which is unequivocal. The heat of the day slowly builds and layers the house, pinning me like a specimen moth. As the central figure in the Prévert, a girl, paused gingerly on a tightrope, tilted down, holds a long balance pole with arrowed tip. Surrounded by the busyness of the world, she's focused on the wire, the pinhole at the end, else she might find herself a commemoration, a shiny silver figure, keeping company with my husband, pictured, on the rugged northwest coast, and my mother, pictured, both with walking sticks in hand. They no longer need to watch their step. They've fallen in the same stunned year. They fell like wings released. Put forth for consideration. The darkness in the room has no tongue. Each of the half-dreams that came with the drowse contained an element of fear. The day was ending. The question remained, how to be alone. It was not only a question, but a sentence, a declaration, the pause between two equal truths. Insects nestle in the cracks, ticking off hours. The fire gently subtracts. It is tame and not apocalyptic. A November rose sucks water from the vase, while the wind speaks in yellow particles. Equations bring no comfort. The little birds do their best. She would marry the bear if only he would come home. I'm just going to end with a couple poems from the book that was supposed to be out by now, but due to the small press distribution debacle, it's delayed, but not forever. Trees begin to loosen. Polar bodies hold no secrets. What becomes debris is not calculated, but borne on a weak wind or trickling stream, as those who scour alleys and damp closets, discarded boxes and the bones settled by the back shed, conceal their true desires. Flakes of sin trail from the confessional in the sour lamplight of a January afternoon. Imagine wisdom as commonality, influence as cipher, the bold blue of a North Sea laid with the trimmings of smoky light. The eye of science roams the mess in search of patterns and reason, while rivers rise in a waiting game and trees begin to loosen from the earth. And I will end with, you girls, find your way. You bruised girls under a restless sky, don't ask for retribution. Rain-drenched, sorry queens of catastrophe, going all high and figurative, decide how you'll be in front of the crowd of liars and pretenders, bending your elbows, shooting out your hips. Girls, clutch at power while the sweat crawls down your necks, and you slide under cover, sassing out alliances and probable cause. Hair swinging, take that language, putting you in negative space, and spit it back. You girls heading one way or another, with little time to decide, love those hallelujahs. Grab sweet and smear it on your face. Play true, bury the bashing and stand up, unflinching, though you've been rassled and stomped. You girls become whole and solid, untouchable, ready to fly and make noise. Yourselves. Yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mercedes. We're going to have one more reader, and then we'll have a 5-minute break just to stretch our legs, and then we'll come back for 3 more readers. Our next reader is Larry Laurence, who was a Jack Straw writer in 1999 and 2006. Larry Lawrence's books are a full-length volume of poems, Life of the Bones to Come, Black Heron Press, which was chosen as a National Poetry Month selection by the National Association of College Stores. A chapbook, Scenes Beginning with the Footbridge at the Lake, and an e-chapbook, Successions of Words, are so. Awards include grants from the Seattle Arts Commission, Artist Trust, plus a Jack Straw Fellowship, and residencies at Community of Writers and Cummington Center for the Arts. Larry Laurence earned an MA in English from California State University, Fresno, and studied poetry under Philip Levine. Please welcome Larry Laurence.
Thank you all for coming. I'm gonna, let's see, I have 40 minutes, right? Why are you laughing? Okay. And, all right, I did bring a couple of copies of this book. This is my latest book, hopefully not my last. But it's been out for about a year, and I will read a few poems. I'll turn on the timer. Oh, I see I've numbered these, okay. This is called Inclusive, you're hearing, okay, all right. This is called Inclusive of Hello and Goodbye, and it's for JW. JW is James Wright, a very important poet in my early poetry training. Inclusive of Hello and Goodbye. 3 angels manifest themselves at a bar. They make it known to the mind of the bartender, this day is our birthday. No. 3 baleen whales, a gray, a blue, and a humpback, swim into a bar. They sing in high-pitched vocalizations and clicks, this day is our birthday. No. 3 rocks, an igneous, a metamorphic, and a sedimentary, roll into a bar. In Morse code, they knock against themselves to the bartender. Today is our birthday. No, 3 weeds, a sheep sorrel, a red stem philatre, and a Canada goldenrod seed themselves at a bar. Utilizing the slight air currents available, they rustle to the bartender. Today's, no. 3 trees, a Jenny sycamore, a pawpaw, and a blossoming peach, an anaconda, a coachwhip, and a Texas blind snake. Okay. A swift, a chicken hawk, and a blue jay. Okay. 3 subnuclear particles appear and do not appear simultaneously in various unknowable interstices of realities, themselves barely conceivable at the bar and outside the bar. They harmonize in vibrations at once audible and inaudible to the bartender in such a way to at long last, prove senseless the dichotomy of the observer and the observed. Today's our birthday. No matter, says the bartender. We, all of us, gallop terribly against each other's bodies. By the way, the final line is sampled. That's a better word than stolen. Is sampled from, is taken from a line of James Wright's poems. How am I doing here? Okay. Must we dream? That's the title. Must we dream? And then in parentheses, dream we must. In Melanie's, the battleship's what's important, though the guests, faceless, breakfasting at the captain's table, or drawn to the table's centerpiece, a cockroach pulsing, growing larger than smaller, smaller than larger, egg-heavy female, back open like observatory panels, a distraction from the solitaire, cards as could be predicted and made up, later, she admitted, for dramatic effect, blank. What you're missing, this has a visual component, the last part, oops. The last part is a series of parentheses. Let me see. Okay. Portraits on location. And each section has a location on it. So number one, which is a wonderful sculpture if any of you have ever been to MoMA in New York. Picasso Goat, Sculpture Garden at MoMA, New York, New York. Vast me, or vast not me. He goat atop she goat. Billy on nanny. Oh, eye-rolling ecstasy, oh, golden flea. 2. Aurora Bridge, Seattle, Washington. His, no. Don't know, no, yes, no, don't know, sure, no, yes, no. Breathe. No when of the, or then of the ideal self, real self, past self, the self offered to be molded and praised, to be pitied admiringly, foolish but now wise, or the hated, for that matter, or the prolapsed. 3. Jefferson High School, Port Arthur, Texas. A singer, she breathed and opened herself. How is it we know we forget the future? E.g., she knew even before he came that night he wouldn't be around. She wouldn't give a fuck over again and again. Would be her only child, colicky, unsatisfied, ungrateful, even at the tit. At home, tears, motherly. Hard shoves, fatherly. Sullenness, brotherly. 4. Kitchen table. Winter solstice, Iowa City, Iowa. Won't you eat anything, she says. Only you, he says. And then there's a parentheses, a blank of the parentheses, meaning she's thinking, what the? She says. The dishes fall a long way in time. The tablecloth by now, family. 5. Bon Temps, La Porte, California. Time, in bright sun, outside table, outside what locals name le café indifferent. Cold, wind so absent it is hunger drives lone friend leaf to leave so finely its elm's reach. Free, she's laughing, but for what? To arrive here, my thigh? Free itself only to attach to me? Desire path? He's saying, shh, shh. She's almost singing it. 6. The cherry capital of the world, Traverse City, Michigan. He's risen after lovemaking to pee and come back while she's looked at the clock, jumped up and dressed quickly, thinking alibis being late to her husband's award dinner. Or maybe she's late for work, or he's just, in the frankness sometimes entering after sex, told her about Laura, or she's decided the chill distance between them needs now be literal. But from the street, he's some guy, no shirt, at a stained old clapboard's third-story window. Outside wood stairway, the advertised private entrance. Still shuddering from the woman rushing down it and into her car, and because his music's so loud, he can't hear. He imagines a slam! Exclamation point. Exploding from the door a la comic books. A bold lettered screech! Exclamation point. Spurting from the rear tires as she's off past First Avenue to the water, and even the thin cherry by the base of the stairs shudders. Wait, not the lids, the hunger for cherries strung on its branches. How am I looking here? I'm done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, we're going to take 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, and then we'll come back and have 3 more readers. Hi. We don't, this is actually a recording microphone. We don't have any, okay. I'm sorry about that. Can I get everybody to find your seat, please? It's a recalcitrant group. Please return to your seats. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Vincent Rendoni is our next reader. He was a Jack Straw writer in 2022. Vincent Antonio Rendoni is the author of A Grito Contest in the Afterlife, which was the winner of the 2022 Catamaran Poetry Prize for West Coast Poets as selected by Dorian Locks. His work has appeared or is forthcoming in Prairie Schooner, Agni, The Pleiades, Ninth Letter, Alaska Quarterly Review, Aquifer, The Florida Review, The Vestal Review, Another Chicago Magazine, and So It Goes, the literary journal of the Kurt Vonnegut Museum and Library. He has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize, Best of the Net, and Best Small Fictions multiple times. Please welcome Vincent Rendoni.
Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you all for being here on a Tuesday night. How am I sounding? Am I loud? Am I really loud? Yeah, I can't help it. Also, like nothing else, like hearing your own bio read that makes you want to cringe and like cut it in half. So I actually would, as much as I want to read from A Grito Contest in the Afterlife, available in the lobby for $20 a pop, I would just like to read some new poems, just because Jack Straw was really formative in creating this book. This book wouldn't be here without everybody in the studio, so I just wanted to read something new so they're less bored. So I'm going to read to you a poem called The Unwritten Rules of Animating Speedy Gonzalez. This is based off a meme where there's actually rules about animating the Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner that are very, very specific, that Chuck Jones made his animators follow. And I'm like, what if I did this for Speedy Gonzalez? So here we go. 1. Unlike other heroes, he is small and brown, so he must be perfect. Yes, he must never be harmed, but most importantly, he must never inflict harm. 2. Obviously, Speedy is fast, but he is also smart. The traps are not for him. They exist to be turned on the oppressor. 3. People will be offended. But ask yourself, are they offended because he's a stereotype or because he always wins? 4. Are you offended? Look, representation was in short supply. It was him and Roberto Clemente for a long time. That was it. 5. But the less you show his primo Slowpoke Rodriguez, the better. That shit is actually offensive. And for real, we should tone down that accent a little. Maybe the sombrero too. Consider a nice fade and a Chris Gallabera. 7. The cat in pursuit must be a metaphor. Capitalism, white supremacy, inadequate childcare. Pick your grievance and use that anger. 8. Speedy Gonzalez gets laid. Like, a lot. But this is a cartoon, so he's a friend of everyone's sister. 9. Speedy Gonzalez is the object of empathy. If we feel for the cat in pursuit, we will wonder where your loyalties are. 10. The worst that can happen to Speedy Gonzalez and really any living creature is humiliation. 11. Like in life, he must chaste or be chaste. These are the only two things. 12. Paradigms are limiting. Paradigms are freeing. They exist whether you want them to or not. I do not make the rules. 13. A thought. What if the chase is internal? Speedy Gonzalez, with no cats or sisters left to conquer, must deal with boredom, aging, and his abilities in decline, and find new purpose as the faster creature death closes the gap minute by minute. 14. Never forget, this is just a cartoon, right? And one more new one I'd like to read. This one's kind of a tribute to my grandmother because brown ladies don't win enough in their stories. So this is called Attack of the 50-Foot Abuela. Just a note, my grandmother's name was Manuela, and Rendon is our real family last name. It was changed to Pass after they immigrated into the United States. Manuela Rendon was stabbing the skid marks of her husband's underwear with a Tide pen when a comet appeared outside of her window. Brief as it was, she saw something untethered to this world. She remembered the omens her mother told her as a child and grew through the roof of her modest home. With a mighty wepa, Manuela Rendon let her newfound power be known. Down came the oaks, down came the power lines, and away she went in her baby kitten sweater and her hair rollers and away into the night. The men, they were not so nice. They said she is just being emotional because maybe her sons don't visit. Maybe her man isn't sticking it to her. Maybe she has seen her last red grasshopper. The NIMBYs, they piled on, snapping live footage of the brown building-sized grandma, writing sarcastic captions about the increase in taco trucks and the decline in property values. They would all meet the business end of Manuela Rendon's sedan-sized chanclas. Her besties in the neighborhood who were enjoying chisme and cafecito cheered as she reduced her enemies to bone and mist. Good for her, they said. They flew in the top negotiator in the country. They asked, what do you want? No one had ever asked Manuela Rendon what she wants. Her demands were reasonable, even though she could have got more. To reopen the old drive-in, to play Cuna de Lobos every night, to have her sons visit without needing something, a nice cup of tea, and her no-good husband served on a plate in chains. The demands were met, and Manuela Rendon and the neighborhood lived the rest of their lives in relative peace. Okay, so being that my name is Rendoni, my first name is Vincent, and I have a lot of self-conscious issues about calling myself Mexican, this is a tribute to a nickname my father used to give me. It's named after the timeless classic Blade with Wesley Snipes. It's called Daywalker. My father called me the Daywalker, his revenge, told me to attack from the shadows, check that box on the applications, and get a job where I could sit down and stick my chest out knowing I'm never getting pulled over for going 26 in a 25. I'm never gonna get called a wetback or have to put my hands on a dash or get told I'm one of the good ones by my wife. It's 1995 and we are watching Mariah Carey. She's in heaven with her boyfriend. And this is the moment my father tells me I'm mixed when he crosses himself and leaves a thumbprint of cinnamon forever on my head. Apologies to my first love from the Wheatlands, who upon finding out I was half, snorted and laughed, saying, snort, soy mas Mexican K2. Apologies to the Midwestern girl from college and the anger in my voice when she said I didn't look Mexican, for not wearing the sombrero I keep in storage. But give me some credit. I kept the jean shorts and the cholo plaid. I can make empanadas from memory. But maybe you can deny me, and maybe the half is the whole, and no amount of Menudo or Selena or streaks on Duolingos gets the other back. Maybe it's hard to see, but to deny me is to deny my ancestors. My father is to deny what it took to be here. No, we got this all wrong. It's I who denies you. Okay. I'll read one. I think I've got two more left. Let's say 2 poems, just in case I remember that I talk fast and need to slow down a little bit. I'd like to read A Family of Axolotls because I actually wrote this here with Michael Schmelzer in the class of 2022. And I've really grown to like this poem, even though at first I absolutely hated it. A Family of Axolotls. Abuela leads me to the pond where he keeps a family of axolotls. They shouldn't live in a place so cold, but they exist despite logic or reason. Maybe it's because he's tender with them in a way he isn't with his wife or son. He whistles to them, sings them something happy. He brings them locusts, night crawlers, a feast. Their names are Mickey Mouse, Bugs Bunny, Salma Hayek, and El Inmortal, naturally. To become Mexican, he says, I must catch one. Otherwise, I sleep outside. I reach for them. They smile, they taunt, constantly slipping from my fingertips, elusive as calm. They hang in the green water, gills throbbing, little gods looking at me with happiness and understanding. The capture never feels at hand, but the smallest, and of course it's the smallest, isn't quick enough. And in my excitement, I catch and kill it with a crush. But for once, Abuelo is quick to forgive, says nothing's been done that can't be undone. The family looks back at me, still smiling, and in my fist, something puts itself back together again. Ooh, let's read this one. I was thinking when you were reading Flare Corona, I was just like, I really want to read a pandemic poem myself. It's called A Greedo Contest in Purgatory. And I was explaining to Laurence, does everybody knows what a greedo is? That's that screaming you often hear, like, ah, ha, ha. But when you do it with a contest, you do it back and forth. And people often ask, what was the point of that? And I'm like, it doesn't need to have a point, just to make noise and have fun. So my wife and I actually did this once deep in the pandemic. That's why we call it a Greedo Contest in Purgatory. Late at night, my wife and I go outside. If we see the stars, we'll count them. We give the constellations better names. The eggplant emoji, the juicy naturals, the flatulent. Aren't we clever, we'll say. And then I fill my lungs with the cool air. I show her the whites of my eyes and shout. She can feel my trilling in her chest, such intimacy. It's her turn to respond. Louder, I tell her. She's embarrassed. She's not one to draw attention to herself. I tell her there's many kinds of greedos, shouts, one for freedom, one for war, one for joy. That's what this is, joy. She meets me at my volume, back and forth we go. Oh God, she says, the neighbors. Oh, we have thrown the roosters off their game. The community Facebook groups, they're already in a froth. The vaguely threatening letters and passive-aggressive flyers, they're coming. Fools. They should be thanking us. They haven't learned that this is how you push away the night. This is how you call forth the dawn. Thank you so much. Thank you, Jack Straw. Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you, Vincent. Our next reader is Judith Skillman, who was a Jack Straw writer in 2008 and 2013. Judith Skillman's poems have appeared in Commonweal, Threepenny Review, Ziziva, and other literary journals. She has received awards from the Academy of American Poets and Artists Trust. Oscar the Misanthropist won the 2021 Floating Bridge Press Chapbook Award. Her recent collection is Subterranean Address, New and Selected Poems. Please welcome Judith Skillman.
Golly gee whiz, so great to be here. Thank you, Kathleen, for putting together this series. It's really nice to see so many poets, especially some I haven't seen for a decade or two, and very honored to be here. So the book contains work from 7 thin volumes of poems, and I'm gonna just read a variety, just short. I'll keep it to 10. beginning with this one, which is for my grandchild, Cedar Choi Skillman. The terrible fate of being a child, carried from one bed to the next, deposited beneath covers, expected to sleep, hounded and scorned and teased, fed one tidbit and another, and talked about in front of the others, abandoned to third person, which, as we all know, is akin to disappearing, dying, missing out on barbed jokes thrown to the four corners of rooms, skies, and greens, the croquet set in waiting, its colored balls hidden in plastic. You, the one they want gone, there all along with no way to escape the sun hovering behind blankets, the false animals in fake fur, and your leash tied to the end of the world. So I have an unabashed political poem about the state of the world. China shop. Never mind the porcelain from Dresden. It's gone. Let me remind you, we are at war. Expect worse. In the Middle Ages, they used the rack and counted limbs of their victims heaped in a pile. They had a device that would broadcast screams called a bull's horn. What makes the sight of an animal tiptoeing around blue willow plates so picaresque? The moment comes, and he's back on all fours, sweeping creamers and sugar bowls from cherry tables with his horns, listening, like us, to the crash of glass, almost happy to hear the climax of anger, like a centaur without a face, or a place wiped clean of its history. I almost brought the thing by Jack Gilbert where he says, like the Greek fishermen, not to compare myself to Jack Gilbert in any way, shape, or form. The Greek fishermen do not tell jokes, and I do not write funny poems, something like that. But I didn't, but then I did. Okay, so this is about climate change. Can believe in moon as goldfish, as moth or milk. Anything but this scorched pink candy waxing from half to full to lie open-eyed as a beetle. Moon as sun, kin, mirror, omen, or any deity perched on high. Not this crawling across terrain gone dull with smoke's amnesia. Noxious sky, now return the goose eggs stolen from a star that tried to teach with tentacles of corona. Black-spotted moon, a moonflower once borrowed, due to be returned. Okay, so I wrote this during my 60s, and I already told some people I'm going to be 70. It's unbelievable. I used to like almost pity people who were turning 70. I was like, oh, that's horrible. But now it's happening, dude. But this is a 60s poem, being in your 60s. Silver years. Come in autumn, pumpkin seeds gooey with slime, the slant sun less and less an ally, half moon swathed like a newborn, and that last rose bobbing like a ship in dry dock. Sugar ants thread counters, your bony fingers, your scholar's hump. Fair game, market stock can go up and down at will. You've learned from studying the decades, each morsel of Russian noodle-clothed potato holds the taste of tea and tarnished amulets worn by ancestors. One, a bracelet, the other, a choker. I grew up largely in Maryland. That's why I have a terrible phobia of, well, what phobia isn't terrible, but of roaches. So I'm very happy to be here. I've only seen like one roach here. Seriously, 41 years, one roach. Palmetto bug. What was it other than a nightmare of Maryland, kingdom of mosquitoes and lice, come to by accident from elsewhere, a transplant, perhaps, from South Carolina, the primal fear I felt when, not knowing if it could fly, it could, I pressed myself into as small a space as possible and waited, breathless, for its reddish carapace to move back beneath the planter, or else push on deeper into the closet. Oh, please, go to your motel, the one with a room made especially for you, bed with stained mattress, cigarette holes in the arms of the chair, yellow linoleum on the floor. Yet so tropical was the thing, it did as it pleased, never completely dying or passing on to another, better life. And then this is the title poem. It is a bit of a dark book, I just say that. Subterranean Address. The mole digs until the sidewalk caves. In undertones, whole harmonies. A dirge accompanies these latter years. Souls of fathers, mothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, sisters, brothers. Some didn't make it this far. Their oars struck mud. Reeds blocked passage to the river, and from there, the ocean. Once I drowned. They put me under by withholding oxygen. Unfair, you say, but it saved 2 lives, mine and the baby separated from her placenta. The mole dredges memories, leaves moist, dark earth in piles, comes back despite poison worms you shove down the threshold of one or another hole. We like to think we live above it all, deities who convey rich secrets to others, when in fact it's 3 squares a day to which we are beholden, and water, the delicious melody of waves born fresh from the mountain to yawn across and into streams of sadness. So in honor of Passover, I'll end with this poem, but I had a lot of trouble deciding whether to read it, given the current state of affairs. And I would like to say that it's more than ever an anti-slavery, anti-oppression poem. Maybe I would take the ever out. It's more of an anti-slavery poem. Diaspora. The reed hills take the brunt of wailing flung from wind, and where an arm reaches up from the ground beneath mulch and dirt shoveled in, only the exposed root of a plane tree, elbow bent and knotted, hints at the body below. Time goes by unaccounted. Seasons take. Thistles and Scotch broom, a few transplanted bouquets of rosemary trapped in hollows, bend and mourn their once green-tipped scent. An elbow of bone, a bit of wire, concertina, left over from the other war, or the one after. Come to the empty bowl, your head covered, as if you were a woman flying like Lot's wife up a steep path. Others will follow. Come to the music of ghost notes, the body of migrating birds, searching as one bird, southward in the throes of dispersion. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Our last reader is Carolyne Wright. She was in the class of 2016. Carolyne Wright's latest books are Masquerade, a memoir in poetry, and This Dream the World, new and selected poems, whose title poem received a Pushcart Prize and appeared in the Best American Poetry. Wright is a Seattle native who has lived and taught on fellowships in Chile, Brazil, India, and Bangladesh for Seattle's Richard Hugo House and for colleges and universities around the country. Please welcome Carolyne Wright.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. I mean, this is wonderful. It's a complete poets reunion. Everybody here is a poet, and I know you all from so many different, various literary contexts. So I'm happy to be here. It's been a long, strange couple of years. The pandemic, and then my husband's illness and his passing away in mid-January. But that's another book that's in process now. I'm going to read from Masquerade, which came out in 2021, and it's got this beautiful cover. It looks like, Fillmore West meets Carnival or Mardi Gras, those wonderful Fillmore West posters from the 60s, man. I remember that time. Yeah, but if you remember the 60s, you weren't there, right? Anyway, but this particular set of poems, I just chose, my editorial method this time was short. Kind of like me, the shorter poems, because those, I think, work better. I just got a magazine in the mail today from Presence, which is a kind of an ecumenical magazine from a small Catholic university, and there's a review of Masquerade in there, and what she called it was Wham! So I'm going to start with that poem, which is the opening poem. You all know the phrase, it's a 4-word phrase beginning with a 4-letter word that is missing from this title. The title is At First Sight, right? Where I think the reviewer kind of overread the missing word. But anyway, some people have a real incredible effect on you, and they think it's Cupid's arrow has struck. But at first sight, wham! Kismet's metabolic blow dart rams into my breastbone, skewers through rib cage and cartilage, lung sac and heart muscle, and lodges with a boing, stunned shudder. What the hell? Firepower's poker stab. Cupid's curse? Or Caliban's cri de coeur? So we go one day later in this gathering of artists and writers at this, let's say it's an artists' colony on the other coast, on a peninsula that I call Cape Indigo, and you'll recognize it. It's shaped like this. Anyway. Blame it on my youth. I hum at the Arts Center's opening fete, a tune I've heard for the first time on public radio's after-hours jazz out of Boston. I'm happy by myself this evening, sipping a gin and tonic without the gin, newly arrived as anyone. Early October's red-letter maple leaves scraping like papier-mâché scraps against the windows. Where are you as I chat with sculptors and novelists, painters and poets, all of us reading each other's name tags? Ah, yes, that center of stillness near a bookcase. You sit on a braided throw rug on the gallery floor, in faded blue jeans and pressed denim shirt, one arm folding your crossed knees to your chest. Even then, you lean into the next moment, gazing into your wine glass with a sly smile, lip-syncing whose words to yourself. Have I forgotten that first sight's blow dart has already struck? If anyone asked then, the question would puzzle me. Safe? Of course I'm safe. You glance up as I pass. Your attention ripples, then veers away. I'm just another woman in the room without a name yet, as conversation swirls and Elvis Costello groans on the stereo. The angels want to wear my red shoes. We haven't yet been introduced. What if the cloud of circumstance had hovered a moment and then eased off? if the future weren't already stitched to the past. This evening, we are all just starting out. All of us too young for blame. Well, this book, the story of this book is an interracial couple, artists and writers. She is white, he is African American, and they have a very interesting, but very difficult negotiation over about 4 years. But part of the time they are in New Orleans, and that's the most interesting part culturally. So this is a year or two into, far away from that coast, and on Royal Street in New Orleans. And this is called One Afternoon on Royal Street. And I make a reference to Jeannine, the French writer and playwright, and also to César Vallejo, the Peruvian poet, who actually did die of starvation in Paris. And he wrote that famous poem, I Will Die in Paris in the Rain. But, so One Afternoon on Royal Street. And this is in a form, it's a nonce form that I found, so I have to credit this. It's after Kelly Cherry, the late great Kelly Cherry. One Afternoon on Royal Street. You are reading Le Nègre. I am writing to César. The sun gleams like a gold doubloon over the levee and the early winter bloom of camellias, the blue flame trembling in the wall heater. Sun is blooming with a cool flame, and you are talking over César and the evening news. I am writing, and camellias are listening past you to the voice of César blooming like a dark sun. Your voice is a blue flame gleaming on the pages of Le Nègre. The levees are trembling winter's darkest gold. Listen, I am talking to you. And this is getting into the form, and lots of forms in this book, which is lots of fun. There are two sets of I just forgot what I'm about to say. No, let me see. This is a triolet. It's a triple triolet. I had there's a double triolet earlier in the book, but I decided to read the triple one because it kind of summarizes the entire story, the arc of the story, in a metaphorical way. And so you don't have to read the whole book now, right? But it's all about jazz. It's set in various jazz clubs, and these were all concerts that took place in New Orleans, in New York, and, believe it or not, one in Seattle. Bright moments with the blues and you. Ellis Marsalis on piano every week at Snug Harbor. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers at the Village Gate. One hot night at the Cookery, Alberta Hunter. Ellis playing Syndrome at Snug Harbor. Miles turning his back on everyone in the arena. Terence Blanchard's first solo at the Village Gate. Ellis ending his set with Z Blues at Snug Harbor. Sarah Vaughan's Só Danço Samba at the Village Gate. And the second one, you can hear the triolet pattern of repetition. The first two lines are a couplet that are repeated at the end, and those two lines get repeated. One of them gets repeated once, and the other gets repeated twice. House of Blue Lights. We were writing a book on the blues together. We sat at jazz club tables with the candles lit. We studied chord changes and the devil's measure. Such big plans, our book on the blues together. On Desire Street, we heard the devil's engines backfire. Aphrodite shimmered on stage in an indigo light. We did our best with that book on the blues together. We stood up from that table, blew the candles out. And the third one is called Blue Room. And there really is a club in New Orleans called the Blue Room, where back in the day, if you called up, what was the station? I think it was WWOZ. And they would have a time where you could call up on the phone, and if you were the second caller, you'd get 2 tickets to any number of different clubs. And I was really fast with that rotary dial. That was fun. That carbon dates me. But I actually won tickets a couple of times to the Blue Room. Yeah. Blue Room. So much love and trouble in that room when Aphrodite shimmied between tables in indigo light, and the Devil's Dance Band struck up a bluesy tune. So many hopes ran into trouble in that room. Miss Mouth, you used to call me, Lighthouse Grin. You weren't trying to change me, not those nights. So much love and trouble in that room, where Aphrodite shimmied between us in indigo light. Well, there's a whole lot of story that's not in here, but this is the final poem in the book where the speaker is beginning to move away, and you can hear that in the voice, the first voice here. The poem is called The Devil and the Angel. And the devil says, I know you blame me, don't you? You're thinking, why is he up here on Machu Picchu anyway? But I belong wherever you are. And the angel answers, blame? No more. Not after August's meteor showers have hailed down on these ancient fitted stones. After sunspots have risen above their 11-year vortices of storm, reversed their dark polarities. Blame? Not after the quantum arcs of angels, winged photons glow around the nerve ends. No demon, love. Earth's logic doing its dumb, dim best, trying to catch up to the intelligence that turns the spheres. Turn the page, right? My white dress lifts in this solar wind. The body takes itself for its own shadow print. You belong where no time has passed in these leaps across the synapses. Lucifer, glimmer inside a thought, epiphany and pridefall, not in opposition. Radiant darkness diffused by light. I am the angel of no losses, one wing in debt divided, connected by the sun's infernal touchstone. Welcome to my world. The demons are intrigued by our hard choices. Thank you. And thank you to Jack Straw and to Kathleen and all of my fellow readers and all of the other wonderful poets in the audience and those of you who are recording this session. I'm very happy about that. All the people who weren't here will be able to see this in the future. And I love the fact that all of Crab Radio's archives are here also. So, yes. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Carolyne. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. It was a really great celebration of poetry, and I just feel very lucky that we were together like this. So come to other ones too, and don't forget the Jack Straw Writers in May, the month of May 3rd, 10th, and 17th. And thank you. Thanks so much.